Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, a Spotlight podcast. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
Michigan is filled with creative and inspiring individuals, and I love to help them share their stories. Here to discuss his path on education, fashion, sustainability is Mr. Jay Moore. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So you're a mid-Michigan local, correct?
Yes.
So I understand you were kind of a big deal in high school. Talk about your high school prowess and a couple of accolades you received in your time there.
That's really funny. Thank you for saying that. I would just say that, I guess I did do a lot. So I had a performing arts company. I was class president. I was homecoming king, very involved with community, theater. Some of everything, I would say. So maybe that is a big deal, but it was just normal, you know?
Well, I mean, that's hard to do, right? I mean, So there are people out there who really, really try to earn some of those things and not get there. So for you to have done as much as you did, I think got you off on the right foot. How did you start your path? I mean, because again, those are both leadership. Those are kind of dare to be in the spotlight kind of hobbies or roles that you aspired to. Kind of how were you raised to have that kind of confidence? Because I know a lot of high schoolers who don't have that.
Really good question. So as I reflect when you were asking me that question, I think it really started with my foundation, to be honest with you. So I I was a more shy, reserved kid. And really, I think once I got into like some of my church activities, built a community that way, it was very encouraging, had a lot of self-esteem things that were like kind of put in me in terms of just like, really kind of owning yourself and really going after your dreams. And I want to say that probably set me up to kind of where I'm at right now today, to be honest with you.
That's great. So high school happens, right?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, a lot of times people who really achieve in high school sometimes struggle going out into the bigger pond that is life after high school.
Absolutely.
I know, and to me, it's kind of sad, right? I think life needs to be a process. And I've had way too many coaches of my kids, where they hearken back to, they're 50-year-old men who high school or college was when they were at their pinnacle. And I think that's a shame. But you obviously have gone on to do some pretty cool things we're going to talk about here as well. So high school ends. What was your path after high school?
Once again, you're making some really good points this morning, by the way.
That's what I do.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. But you're right. I mean, if I can hit on that topic for a second. Yeah, that was I never thought about it that way, but it was a hard transition because I think you're in this kind of world that you're protected by your family, parents, caregiver, whoever your community is, right? And then once you leave their good graces, it's like, okay, well, I guess I don't really have that security net that I thought I had, right? So, but that's a whole nother topic. We can go there later. But what was the question?
Well, what did you do after high school?
That's right. Yeah. So
to land on your feet, too. Or didn't you land on your feet? Because a lot of people don't, but figure it out because they didn't land on their feet.
So definitely did college and continue education, all of those things. But to be honest with you, I don't think I really landed on my feet up until now in my early 30s. In my 20s, I think because I was so talented, right, and had all these great things going on, I could have went this way, that way, or whatever. And it was great. It was fantastic, but it definitely felt like a struggle during that time. But all in all, how I mean, after high school, college, lived a little bit, figure out what was really important to me, and then eventually kind of got to the place that I am now, where I thought and said to myself, okay, this is how I want life to look. Here's what I want my day-to-day to look like, and here's where I find my happiness.
So you talk about struggling in your 20s, and was that real struggle, or was it just kind of not feeling as happy as you knew you wanted to be?
Everything from under the sun, and I'll give you an example. So from mental, in terms of like, what the heck am I doing, to physically, me and a good friends of mine, we joke all the time. I won't say his name, but during college, I said, I remember eating ice chips for dinner. Right?
Okay.
Because you're broke, right? You don't have any money, but you have this psycho faith, right? That you're like, okay, I'm going to just figure, or I will say for myself, this psycho faith of like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And as a creative, that when we'll talk about later in the conversation, that I could go to so many different paths. I knew, and I went to art school, so I knew that I could do all of this. I just have to figure out, how does this make sense and what direction do I need to go first in order to achieve all these things?
Right. Okay. So you had some traditional jobs, if I'm not mistaken, right? And those were not satisfying, is what I've understood to be the case. So looking at your LinkedIn, I can see the 9-to-5, corporate or nonprofit, or some of those jobs that you took, and but you seem restless with those, and felt like you were meant to do other things. So what was your first foray outside of a job description that someone else had for you?
So I will say this: I think it is important for everyone, and I speak from a creative standpoint, but I think it's important to go through those different experiences, because I've learned something every single time I had a job. I may not want it to be there, but I also know I wanted to live and eat and vacation and do all these things, right? And so one of the biggest jobs that I think I'll have, I've definitely worked in nonprofit. I've worked in education, teacher, recruiter, all those things, but really it was being a barista. Huh. That was my favorite job of all time. I mean, I'm sure that has to deal with what I'm doing with now, but it was my favorite job. I had a chance to talk to people. You do get an understanding in terms of business, and then also just you become an effective communicator and know how to read the room. So
I'll tell you what, yes, and this isn't about me, this is about you, but I can tell you, barista, bartender, waiter, those kinds of roles I hold in very high regard, because it teaches you about society. First of all, you get the little old lady who's sweet as anything. You get the businessman with the briefcase who's kind of maybe a little bit more abrupt. You get the young, there's all kinds of people. There are rushes and there are lulls, and you got to prepare, and you're selling the same kind of goods and services to a wide variety of people. And you just got to it really shapes your ability to survive, Absolutely. Right? By interacting with all these different types of people. So that doesn't surprise me that you say that, but I'm glad you shared that being a barista was very impactful for you. So I said in the intro, I talked about your role in fashion. So was that your first kind of entrepreneurial endeavor?
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah. So I got into fashion in terms of just enjoying it as a whole, right? Okay. And then I also understood that in fashion, let me be very clear, it's not about just clean lines, collar shirts, good dresses, so on and so forth. It really is about personal style. Won't go on that tangent either. Yeah. But
that's hair and shoes and the jewelry and all that. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. I think I wanted to just say it because just in case someone else was listening and just had a better understanding. So, but anywho, I got into fashion. I remember I had a conversation. Well, I understood how people viewed folks that when they were very well groomed and dressed well, right? Yep. So that was my first understanding. Probably after that, I remember having a conversation with my dad, and it was kind of related to fashion, but it was about getting my clothes dry clean. And I remember him telling me, if you really want to invest your time and money in things like, and kind of in that arena, here's a step. So that was fantastic as well, too. Now, in terms of how I turned that into a business, I think I was naturally good at it. I was intrigued by it. It became a passion, and I was helping friends and other folks out to do this, that, and the third. And then that just kind of transitioned me into where I'm at now, where I do it full time as a full-time gig.
Right on. Okay. And those types of things usually are friends and family. And dude, you got to work on your look, or you're 80% of the way there. Let me show you the things you need to do to be that's fascinating. Okay. So, so how does that work? I mean, before we move on to next topics, but so if someone wanted to engage you for, hey, what do you think of my look? And, how would you shape me to, here's what I'm going for, or here's what my role in my career is. And I just want to really be the best me I can be. What do you do? I mean, do they pay you hourly, or do you help them shop? What exactly does that look like?
Good question, Chris. You look bad. No, that's a
favorite jacket. I got a big meeting this afternoon.
You look great. You look great. But such a dangerous question. Really, honestly, the way that I kind of built my wardrobe business, think about it like building a house, right? Yep. I don't even think you have to build a house to understand all the things that go into building a house, majority of it, right? 70% of it. But really what I do is create a blueprint of you. So I ask you a series of questions to figure out what your end goals are, and then compare that data with what you currently have. And I help you build a bridge so you understand what's in my head. Now, do I get pushback? Absolutely. Does it make folks feel a little uncomfortable? Majority of the time, because think about it, you're paying someone to literally pick you apart. But essentially, how I like to run my business, I kind of put you on a program, and to lead to success. And I think that's also the teacher side of me as well too, right?
Right on.
But I think it's important for folks to see the start and the finish and like the in-between process as well too.
Okay. So sustainability and equity is kind of where your space is now, which certainly the fashion can be a part of that.
Absolutely.
But you've got some hard materials that you're selling. I mean, like you've got a line and a business that you've started in one endeavor. Why don't you unpack that for us a little bit? What are you doing these days? What do you want the world to know about your passion for equity and sustainability?
You know, I always have a story for you. So
absolutely. That's why you're here.
Exactly. Right. But I think that's like every creative entrepreneur, they always have a story, excuse me. And so I'll start with the sustainability factor, right?
Yep.
And so I think I got introduced to that kick, as silly as this sounds. And I don't even think my dad even knows this. So shout out to you if you hear this. But when I was a kid, we would always watch he would watch, I would just be in the room. He would always watch these like National Geographic shows, or at least they would be on TV, right?
Yep.
So anything about plants, animal, space, and I don't know if he was sleeping, really interested or not. Have no idea to this day. I probably should ask him. Well, anywho, so I really, really got immersed into that whole science, nerd, environmental situation, as I'll say. And it kind of just grew. So it was on the back burner, but I knew I always wanted to do something with it. And matter of fact, had I not went to school for education or didn't even think about fashion or anything like that, I think I would have been a marine biologist, right? So I say all that to give you context that has always been there.
Okay.
It's just now coming to the forefront, right? So now you fast forward, we look at sustainability. Sustainability does not just deal with environment. It also deals with social economics, systems, and so on and so forth. And as a working adult, as an entrepreneur, all these things affect us, right? The environmental is just a byproduct in terms of we all should just care about the environment, right? You just want to live, you want to breathe good air, all those things. And so what I have done in my own crazy Jay Moore way is that, okay, I want to deal with sustainability. I think this is important, and I know people should want to talk about this, right? So what can I do in my way to figure out how to make it more easy for people to digest? And so the byproduct of that is like, okay, I can focus on sustainability, but maybe the byproduct, is coffee or tea or something like that. So while folks are drinking coffee, I can then, in terms of marketing, really, really talk about this idea of sustainability in all of these different areas to make it make sense to folks.
And so not exploit the source,
no,
but rather embrace the source and the supply chain and all of that. Because you talk about these documentaries that are on the Nature Channel or History Channel or whatever, and I just immediately to me conjures up poor villages in South America,
absolutely,
or poor villages in Africa where they're schlepping water, but a lot of these places they've got great raw materials.
Absolutely.
And corporate America can come in and say, here's a couple of bucks, give me all your great raw materials. Or you can embrace them and say, let's make your lives better. Let's really partner on telling your story. And, is that kind of in the realm?
Well, so that, and to bring it on home, if you look at our workforce, right? Workforce development, we have, I don't know what the homeless population is. I probably should know that in terms of the city that we live in, but in any city that you're in, look at your homeless population, look at the data. These folks, these folks can really go into our workforce. That's sustainability, bringing someone back. Yes, you may have to add a couple more resources because they may be down on their luck or they've been in this situation for whatever reason, but that's also sustainability, is helping someone that is maybe on the other end of what we redeem as normal, bringing them back to what our level of normal is.
Right on. So what are you doing? You mentioned coffee and tea. Yes. I know that that's one thing that's live, but you cautioned me ahead of time that maybe isn't the end game, that you're not going to be another Starbucks or Big B or something along those lines, but it's going to go broader than that. Talk to me about that in the last couple of minutes.
Absolutely. So I can't give you all my secrets, but essentially,
you just want to come back and tell an update.
Yeah. Let's do that.
We can do that.
So I would say in terms of coffee or tea or whatever it is, it's really about connecting the dots, right? And what does that look like, and taking that as far as I can go so folks can understand this is here's the source. Here's how we got it, and here's how you are helping their communities, and here's how we're helping our communities. So,
got it. All right.
Broad answer. I know,
that is a very broad answer.
Stay tuned.
So what do you want the public to know? How can people get in touch with you? How can people follow your story? How can people buy your products to help support your initiatives or maybe partner with you, invest in you? Is all of that on the table?
Love all of that. Absolutely. Please come find me. So you can go online at www.gteproducts.com or follow me on Instagram at justjmoore_.
Just J Moore, and J is just the letter.
Just the letter.
Right on. Okay, and GTD. I'm sorry. GTE
Products.com.
Grow the Earth.
Yes.
Right on. GrowTheEarthProducts.com. Fantastic. Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate your story. Let's get together again and hear where the next chapter takes you.
Perfect.